What sounds offensive but actually isn't? Rapeseed oil. Funny add-on. A few years back a small town figured they should change their town motto. They had been in the cannella and honey game since way back. Their motto. The land of rape and honey. What did they change it to? Opportunity grows here. Funnily enough could also be Epstein's motto. I still cannot believe there is a burger restaurant called Fuddruckers. Ruddakers. Paul Ruddakers. I wish. There's this pho restaurant in Davis. CA named Foking. Masticated. I love masticating. I do it many times a day. I swallow afterwards. Only cowards don't. I masticate with my family. Chigga. Sounds like two racial slurs, but it's just a bug. Just a bug. Those little shits are plenty offensive. I don't have very many allergies, but apparently chiggas make up for the lack of the rest. I've literally woken up to blood-soaked sheets from scratching in my sleep after getting into them. Like 30 to 40 of the little bastards from ankles to knees, all welted up to dime-sized nodules of pure itch. I just won't go into a pasture or field without a dousing of DEET. I used to survey for a living. Each summer we'd get a few short-timers, mostly college kids who were still in town. Everyone in the field looked terrible all the time, but were dressed appropriately for their assignment. These guys would be in jogging shoes with ankle socks, khaki shorts or baggy, tank tops and shirts to roll out into waist-high grass or thick briars. They were mostly too cool for DEET and permethrin for a week or so. At least one every year got a terrible mess of red bug bites, usually between ankles and knees. The kids wouldn't treat it, but were totally unprepared for how intense chiggas are. Either sleeping or absent-mindedly they would claw till they had cellulitis. It only takes once to understand the need for the chemicals and long pants in summer. Edit. Spelling. Grew up in the deep south and can confirm that chiggas will make one think that it's a good idea to swim in a pool of DEET before going into the woods. The only bug that comes close is the sandfly. I ran into these in Venezuela many years ago, called jeans over there, and regretted it. The name Dick. I used to work as a nurse's aide in a nursing home, and part of my job was assisting residents with their meals. Some residents you had to actually feed their entire meal. Well, one morning during breakfast I was assigned to take care of Dick. He would always chew and chew his food, and never swallow it. Also, he was hard of hearing, so I pretty much yelled, "Swallow that, Dick," in a crowded dining room. What a weird day that was. He knows. It's one of the only things he has left to look forward to in life. r/thick no. Can't. Emmanuel, is that you? Mediocre or average. Sometimes things are not bad or good. They are just in the middle. Competitive salary is code for average salary, and yet competitive salary sounds higher than saying an average salary. They're competing to see who can get away with paying the least. Some people have companies compete for them. Some people compete for a position. Competitive salary sounds way better to the former than the latter. I'm wet. From a glider pilot, almost exclusively older white men. It means they're flying with ballast, but almost all of them choose to say I'm wet rather than I have water or ballast. I snicker every damn time. Conversely, if they are not flying with water, they'll say they are dry. With that in mind, this is my favorite call I've heard someone make. Papa Charlie, I'm dry and ready. Apostrophe. Billy, have you ever seen a grown man naked? Do you like movies about gladiators? Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Nobody cares about you. When you're in your teens, you stress about so many little things. A small zit, less than perfect hair, an embarrassing moment, whatever. Then you get into adulthood and start worrying that people will judge you for going to the movies alone, wearing pajama pants to the grocery store, napping in the library. But man, nobody does. Do you scrutinize other people that closely? Nah, nobody cares about you. There's so much freedom in realizing it. It's really people are more concerned with themselves and whether others are judging them, that they don't actually care what you're doing, but it just doesn't have that zing to it. That's just people don't care about you with more steps. Kumquat. Best fruit to this day on God. Renege. V. To go back on. Retract. A previous statement or submission. I've only ever heard it pronounced reneg, rhyming with egg. As a Brit, I'm kinda confused by this. We say it more like renayg, probably due to the French looking spelling. Although Welsh almost certainly has its origin in disparaging people from Wales. Black has sometimes been a touchy word, most notably from a political standpoint, but using African American as a stand-in for black doesn't always work. A dark-skinned Hispanic person, for example, may identify as black, race, and ethnically Hispanic without considering themselves African. There are also white people in Africa. South Africa comes to mind, as well as Moroccans, Egyptians, and other countries that are sometimes pushed into Middle Eastern due to religious beliefs. Deleted. I have a couple of black African friends living in America. They are frequently referred to as African Americans despite not being American. Black is more inclusive. What's even funnier is using the term African American for a Kenyan dude living in Europe. I've definitely seen African American used in Norway. For a while it was even considered a politically correct term. Completely insane considering 99% of black people here has no affiliation to America whatsoever and are first or second generation immigrants from Africa. I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. Apostrophe. It's kind of crazy how sweet Bilbo was considering he had been carrying the ring for several decades at that point. Oh. Absolutely. I choke up a bit when he asks about the ring at the very end. Sorry uncle, I'm afraid I lost it. That really made me tear up. He didn't want to burden Bilbo with the literal hell he'd been through, so kept it simple. You're wrong. The amount of people who get upset if you tell them they're wrong about something is ridiculous. People act like you have offended them somehow, but you didn't make the facts. Obviously I realize there are polite ways to point out to someone they're wrong, and rude ways to do so. People act like you're rude just for contradicting them though. The amount of people who get upset if you tell them they're wrong about something is ridiculous. Like being wrong about how to spell ridiculous. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Debiculous. A word that describes itself. Noticing other people's race. I find it personally okay for you notice I'm not white and pointing it out. However, if you do this in a condescending way, that is when it turns racist. This is something I really struggle with, as in what is acceptable in society. As someone who has never been, or even understood racists, I'm often overthinking whether I can say it was that black lady when trying to talk about someone I don't know the name of. Like I would quite easily say, the fat white guy. I just feel these days, even if you're not racist, you have to really watch your choice of words for fear of being called out by someone who overreacts. Point is, when mentioning someone by appearance you tend to choose the most obvious thing. Height, weight, color, accent, unusually features, i.e. big nose, big head. It becomes a problem when you insert their race into a situation where it's irrelevant. When you're talking about a group of people and you want to identify just one. The simplest, most unique descriptors are always the ones anyone would use. The black guy in the red shirt, or whatever. I think that's fine. However, if, for example, you're talking about a rude customer, saying this black woman came up and started yelling is problematic. Her race is not relevant to her being rude. So why bring it up? I had someone in school call me racist because after I finished giving blood my friend asked which phlebotomist I had. My friend had also given blood earlier that day. I told her the black lady with the cool scrubs. There was one black lady and she had a cool scrub top. My friend went off on me for being racist and that I should have said the lady with the cool scrub top. A lot of them had cool scrub tops. Your friend is dumb. Virgin. Ain't nothing wrong with saving yourself or simply choosing not to have sex. Well, my friend, I don't have much of a choice. You're on Reddit. Of course you don't have a choice. My first thought was more of a dark one, tbh. Mental illness. When someone talk about mental illness, people always think about psychopath or something like that. Like, no, mental illness isn't a offensive word. It's turning into an insult. Retard used to be strictly a professional term, but now it's mostly used as an insult. Retard used to be strictly a professional term, Christ. No, retarded, as in mentally retarded, was a clinical term, not retard. Could you imagine? I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Kincaid. Our tests indicate your child is, in fact, a retard. Spigot always sounds like a slur to me, especially if you say it like you're angry. I thought you were assassinated and plunged the world into World War I. Don't be such a spigot. The word niggardly, it means not generous or stingy. I had a history teacher who tried to say the word, but his southern drawl made it sound like he left out the D. The guy paused wide-eyed and said the word again in the most articulated way I've ever heard someone talk. He probably won't let himself live that one down. Oof. Waiting for the Tifu post. Spigot. Yo, I'm just trying to my Minecraft server. I have a friend who lives in a part of Canada where French speakers are common. There's a swear in French, sacrament, which is one of those religion-based swears. Like to burn ack but not quite as strong. She likes to shout sacrament when she's frustrated, which is handbag or purse in French. Gets her a lot of raised eyebrows, which of course is her aim. P.S. I apologize to any French speakers I've offended with lack of accent marks. I'm just too lazy to figure out how to make my keyboard do them. Son of a biscuit is my English personal favorite. People always look at me shocked for a second and then laugh. I really have started saying that when I hurt myself though, because my dad legit yells son of a bitch when he gets hurt, so I was trying to curb the habit I had learned. Saying that someone is ignorant. It just means they don't understand the subject. There's nothing wrong with not understanding something. The problem arises when ignorant people think they're experts. See Dunning-Kruger. OMFG. My boyfriend and I recently broke up, and this was one of his complaints. We got into a big argument because he was trying to whitewash something that happened to me, and I said, I'm sorry, but this is something you're ignorant about. He blew the duck up. That was months ago, and he still brings it up as if I grievously insulted him. I tried pointing out that I would be very comfortable saying this is a subject I'm ignorant about, but he believes it is one of the worst ways you could possibly insult someone. Ignorance is fixable. Stupidity is not. To me, it has now wrapped back around to the point where I see people get upset about being called ignorant, and I immediately think, oh, your ego is so fragile. You can't imagine a world where you don't know something. Apostrophe. Embracing ignorance is often a sign of intellectual maturity. No problem. As a response to thank you, I still don't understand why people take offense to that. White people are offended by that. I always say no problem. I didn't know there are people that find something wrong with it, lol. It's mainly older folks that take passive-aggressive offense to it. Yeah, it's definitely generational. While offended may not most accurately describe it, saying you're welcome to people around your own age, assuming you're not in the older generations, can be a bit clunky and awkward. My cousin called my partner and his family boat people. I was mortified until I learned that Vietnamese refugees in the 70s and 80s were actually called boat people. I only remember the term boater. I had some Vietnamese friends in elementary and middle school, mid-90s. None of us white kids would refer to them as that, but it was a common term. Wear a mask. WHYRUT trying to suffocate me. My crazy ass aunt and uncle from Florida. There's a town in Wales called Crieff. Always thought it seemed it like should be a rude word but isn't. Same with Clitheroe, Cockermouth and Fingeringhue. Edit. I have been reliably informed in my inbox that even the locals of Cockermouth call it Nabingob. I suppose you have to make your own fun up in Cumbria. Ah. Good old Clitheroe. I spent a lot of my teenage years there. Can confirm it just gets abbreviated to Clit by the locals. Jew. This one is really rough cause it's both bad taste and bad grammar. To call someone a/the X instead of the X person for pretty much any minority/marginalized identity. I didn't quite understand what you were saying until I tried it. Such an obvious distinction that I never noticed. Not racist, so. There I was talking to Gary and these black guys walk by. Careful what you say next. But so far you're all good. Racist, so. There I was talking to Gary and these blacks walk by. Doesn't matter what comes next. The number of times I was unknowingly pulled into convo #2 just for being fellow white guy in the vicinity. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.